About 5 years ago, um, I was able to get to a point to where I was able to defeat my own ego, because for the longest time I let my ego and my pride get in the way of everything. My ego and my pride destroyed everything: relationships, um, opportunities, um, just destroyed everything. And I've come to realize that one of the most expensive emotions we have is not anger, it's not happiness, it's not love, it's our ego. It's ego, our pride. Because at the end of the day, a lot of times you can't take feedback. You won't ask for help. How many people, just refuse to ask for help? Their ego, their pride. You too proud to start small. You too, proud to admit that you were wrong. We've all been there. Pride and ego gets in the way of everything. And every year that you protect your ego is a year that you do not grow. Humility is profitable, but at the end of the day, your ego is very fucking expensive. You have to, you have to let your ego go and kill your ego before your ego kills your dreams. Because a lot of times people learn this way too later in life, that their ego was the reason that a lot of things didn't start, or it was the reason that a lot of things ended. I mean, I swear, I can't tell you how many times I've let my ego destroy good relationships. Um, it's like when you have this ego and this pride driving and it's the main force of your life, you stop listening to a lot of things. Ego makes you believe you already know enough. So a lot of times you miss a lot of lessons that you can learn. You miss a lot of advice that you can learn. You miss a lot of perspectives that could elevate you in life. But because your ego is driving your life, you already know a lot of these things. I swear this used to be me. No one could tell me anything. I knew everything. And at the end of the day, I didn't want to look silly. I didn't want to look like I didn't know. So I would, I know what you're talking about. Had no fucking idea, had no clue. And I was missing opportunities. I was missing advice. I was missing things that could, help me move up in life because my goddamn ego. Um, if we being real, is very, you know, uncomfortable. Um, when you don't know, you know, something, or if you seem or come across weak. But at the end of the day, it's like when you living in this ego, you avoid discomfort. Growth requires humility and learning from failure. You have to learn from failure. So many people are scared to even try things because they're afraid to fail. But failure is part of success. You have to fail. That's what makes you get better. But that ego, it keeps you in your comfort zone. That ego will keep you in your comfort zone, and you don't want to be in your comfort zone. Comfort zone is where nothing happens. Um, People too afraid to look weak. But in my opinion, I feel like when people are driven by ego, that's a weakness. Because I've learned that being vulnerable is one of the best things you could do. Because I remember a guy who I worked with probably a couple years ago who, he was big into working out, all about his physique. But at the end of the day, whenever we talked, he would always be vulnerable in situations, and it made me kind of feel some type of way because I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. I wasn't at that point, and it made me look like, it made me feel like, in a way, like, damn, I wish I could do that. And when you get to a point to where you could be vulnerable and just, avoid looking weak, so what you look fucking weak? You look weak to yourself. I mean, everything is perspective. And like I said, when you live in this ego, you know everything and you avoid perspectives that can help elevate you in life. Another thing that I used to do when I was kind of living in this state of ego is I would compete with everything and everyone. Instead of learning, I would compete. You know, ego turns everything into a goddamn a comparison game, you know. And when you get so caught up in comparison, you stay focused on others instead of improving yourself. You know, I get it. It's the world we live in, social media. You know, everyone wants to compete. But if you could get to a point to where you're not in competition or comparison with everyone, that puts you in a position to where you could solely focus on yourself and better yourself. You want to get to a point to where you're not rejecting accountability. Ego hates being wrong. You know, a lot of times when you think about when you've been in situations and you was wrong, it wasn't you so much like feeling like you were wrong. It's your ego. It's your ego making you feel like, yo, because your ego don't like that shit. Your ego do not like any of that. But without owning mistakes, you keep repeating the same mistakes and it keep you stuck where you are. So I swear, like, I'm 34 now. And if you younger, if you in your 20s, if you 19, I was 19, 20 where I was really letting my ego control my life. Not because I wanted to, but because it was really a form of protection. It was a way of, you know, protecting my, you know, I was protecting my vulnerabilities. I didn't want to seem weak. I didn't want to look weak. And so, excuse me, I let my ego get in the way. And I also learned that, you know, sometimes you could use your ego to your advantage. But a lot of times people just, they don't know how to do it. I got to the point probably a couple years ago where, you know, like if you let your ego get in the driver's seat of your life, it takes the confidence that you don't have and you could get behind your ego confidence. Like a lot of times you might be, as a guy, you might be afraid to approach that girl. But if you get behind your ego and let your ego do all the, it puts you in a position who's afraid to look weak or afraid of rejection. It makes you take that step of going to go talk to that girl. So I do feel like there's times where you could let ego and you could use ego to your advantage, but too many people are emotional. They get in their feelings, and one of the worst feelings you could be in is prideful and egotistical. It blocks and it stunts a lot of fucking growth. A lot of people should be way further than they are, but they let ego control their life. If you know what I mean, if you could agree, let me know in the comments. How many situations have you been in where you kind of let your ego take control and it only hurt you? Send this video to someone who could use it. Like, comment, subscribe, and y'all have a blessed day. Deuces.